Hey guys, and welcome back to Now for something a little bit different, episode 79. Guys, I am back with two of my buddies. I'm back with Mr. KoreanKool, my wonderful co-host. KoreanKool, good to see you, buddy. And
Hey, what's up?
we got the one, the only, Mr. Jose, Cupcake himself. Hey guys, we are getting a little bit toxic. That's right.
Oh,
Being from New Jersey, we don't get a lot of superheroes, even the violent, ridiculous ones. So we're here to celebrate the one, the only Toxic Avenger. And since we're doing that, we figured we would go ahead and talk briefly on the remake that just came out this weekend. I don't want to give anything away. We'll do that. And then we're going to launch into the original, the OG Toxic Avenger from the 1980s. So it should be a fun afternoon of talking film. Before we do that, I'll just real quickly ask you, gentlemen, what has everybody been up to? Have you guys been listening to anything good, watching anything good, reading anything good?
Well, I have been consuming more Dark Shadows. I don't know when I'm going to finish that, quite honestly, but I did catch a couple. I did catch a couple streaming films that are actually not too bad, honestly. So I caught something called Riff Raff. So Riff Raff, this is directed by Dito Montiel. He did A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, Fighting with Channing Tatum. Yeah, and I kind of thought he dropped off the face of the earth. He did not, apparently. And so this film has come out. It's written by John Polano, but it stars Ed Harris, Lewis Pullman, Jennifer Coolidge, Gabrielle Union, Ed Harris, Bill Murray, Pete Davidson. So it's an interesting kind of, I want to say it's almost like a chamber piece because it takes place like in one location for the most part, but there's a lot of like flashbacks. It's all about like, Lewis Pullman is the son of Ed Harris, and there's this kind of like, you know, they all kind of like know each other. Something's gone wrong. A child's been wronged, and what have you. It's actually really, really entertaining. Probably more entertaining than I thought it would actually be. The logline says a former criminal's ordinary life is turned upside down when his old family shows up for a long-awaited reunion. Everybody's really good in this. There is an actor named Miles J. Harvey who plays the son of Gabrielle Union and Ed Harris. So she has sort of remarried Ed Harris, and he's really, really good in it. Lewis Pullman's really good in it. Pete Davidson, I mean, I can take or leave, but he's great. Jennifer Coolidge is always good. I think it's streaming. I want to say it's streaming on Hulu, and even Prime as well. So definitely check that out. The other film I saw, and this was a film that we were supposed to review on Watch Skip Plus, but I forced Mike to go see the Jude Law penis Eden film.
That review. I heard your abomination of Eden.
Yeah, it was honestly, I mean, listen, I don't know if it was my mood when I went to see Eden, but the story itself is very interesting. Like in my Amazon cart, I have the two books that the women have written because I'd really love to read what happened. I haven't read them yet. They haven't been shipped, but I'm gonna get there. So the other film we were supposed to review was a streaming film on Hulu. It dropped August 22nd called Eeny Meeny. This stars Samara Weaving. We all love her. Scarlet in Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, but also a really great actress. Ready or Not, all these other films that she's been in. She's great. But this also stars Carl Glusman, who I believe he made his film debut in Gaspar Noé's Love. And if you've ever seen that movie, it featured actual real explicit sex scenes, and he sort of released on camera. So let's just say, like Elizabeth Berkley in Showgirls, it was a film debut. I don't think anybody forgot who saw it. Eeny Meeny, the logline goes, a reformed teenage getaway driver is dragged back into her unsavory past when a former employer offers her a chance to save the life of her chronically unreliable ex-boyfriend. So this is kind of like Baby Driver meets, say, a Quentin Tarantino film meets Fast and the Furious. So there's some really great precision driving stunts. There's some really good drama and acting between Glusman and Weaving. Andy Garcia shows up as like a gangster villain. Mike O'Malley is in this. There's a lot of actors that kind of like crop up, and I'm like, what? So Marshawn Lynch is in this
Oh,
as
okay.
sort of like a gangster. Yeah, Steve Zahn. Oddly,
Oh,
there is a credit for an acting coach, and I don't know if that was for Marshawn Lynch because he doesn't always nail what he's required to do in this film, but he's actually really good, Marshawn Lynch.
Hmm.
Chris Bauer from True Blood pops up into
Oh,
this
okay.
too. Yeah. Randall Park is in this in the beginning. It's very funny, very, like I said, Tarantino. It's got great driving stunts, and then it hits you with this really tragic ending. But it is, I don't know why they didn't release this in theaters. It's directed by a gentleman named Sean Simmons, who has written for The Continental, which is the John Wick series, and then mainly other like television shows. Not a lot like in actual film, but it's a great writing and directing debut. I need to figure out what the other movie is that we watched um, the other day. But once I figure it out, you can return to me.
It wasn't Factor Pussycat Kill Kill or Legend of the Overfiend. I saw he posted
Yes.
a picture, and I was like, "That's a double feature I've ever saw one." Especially those two
Yes.
together.
Especially Overfiend, but
yeah.
so my husband has not had the pleasure of seeing either of those, so I'm saving that. I know I'm saving that to have him experience the goodness of both of those. But yeah, I just he's not experienced those. I thought I made him watch them, but no, not quite.
Not quite there
So
yet.
no.
What about yourself, Mr. Nance, Mr. Cool? What have you been watching? Have you had the chance to see anything?
Oh yeah. So we took the daughter back to school. So with her back at school, it's now, trying to catch up to the shows that, my son watches with us, right?
Oh, okay, nice.
More specifically, Squid Games.
Oh yeah.
And so far, season three, I love my homeland.
Uh,
Korea and America is my homeland, but I love the Korean stuff that's been coming out, and Squid Games is one of those things I think a lot of folks should check out. But damn those Koreans, because man, it's like, how much heartache and then joy and then surprise and the why did you just piss me off type of emotions that they
yeah.
drag you through with that series it's unreal. The other thing that we've been checking out, because I thought it was on Apple TV
Mhm.
for whatever reason, but Hulu, but been checking out Alien Earth,
Oh,
and
okay. I
holy
wanted to
crap.
see that. Everybody's been talking about it, and I still haven't had the opportunity quite yet.
Yeah, it's really good. As a matter of fact, Alien Earth, there's a connection with Alien Earth and the Toxic Avenger remake. I'll
Oh,
touch
okay.
on that a little later. I gave
Really?
Jose, yeah, oh yeah, I gave Jose a little bit of a hint
Oh,
when we
yes.
saw each
Oh,
other yesterday. We hung out to go see it. The
nice.
other thing, speaking of Jose, my buddy, we all hung out 2 weeks ago. We went to see Jackie Chan, Tony Leung in a movie called The Shadow's Edge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Troy was bragging about how wonderful that thing was.
Oh, that movie was so good. I'm
Yeah.
50, wishing I could think as fast as Jackie still moves at 70 some years old. It's just
Yeah.
unreal. And Tony Leung just, wow. Outside of that, I kind of switched gears and found a book one of my favorite authors was talking about. Terry Brooks. He is the author of Landover, Land for Sale, um, the Shannara series.
Yep.
Yes.
Uh, um, he has a book called Gallifiled, which is the first Druid. So
Okay.
uh, pick that up. Trying to finish these last two books that I got of the Shannara series
Mhm.
before I start diving into that. So trying to like give my eyeballs a rest by giving a look, just looking at words instead of trying to, oh my God, what's going on? Oh my God, what's going on? So here in Maryland, we've been having some gorgeous morning weather
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mm.
Very cool.
where I can sit on the deck with my hot cup of coffee and knock out two or three chapters.
I was just gonna say the Jackie Chan movie, The
Mhm.
Shadow's Edge. It's like it's interesting. It features obviously, John had mentioned Tony Kai Lung and Jackie Chan, but it also features like younger Chinese stars. Some
Oh,
of them I
yeah.
think are in a K-pop group or something. So the
Oh,
action is incredible, but the film is like this wild techno thriller. There's a lot of like AI and fooling cameras and you know digital trickery. So it's a very interesting techno thriller. There I forget which one it was. There's I think it was called The Fate of the Furious. So it's that one of the Fast and the
Oh,
Furious films. The Fate
yeah.
and the Furious, it felt more like a techno thriller because they were using more AI and like hacking into like the car systems or whatever. But yeah, this Shadow's Edge thing is great, and they leave it open for a sequel, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I demand the sequel now, like right now.
Yeah, I second
Um,
that motion.
yeah, absolutely. And then the other movie I was going to say that we just watched was Hell of a Summer, and that was
oh, yes, yes.
directed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was directed by Finn Wolford and Billy Brick. They're both actors. They're both in this movie as well. Um, I didn't find it entirely successful
Yeah.
because once the reveal of what's actually happening um, comes out, it's kind of like, okay, I've kind of seen this before, but there's an energy to the writing that is kind of interesting, and it's a nice commentary on like young kids today and what they're growing up with. I think Hell of a Summer and Clown in a Cornfield would make a really good double feature because Clown in a Cornfield, it's designed to make you think it's one thing, but it's really just a commentary on Gen X versus Gen Y.
Mhm.
Very, very savvy. And then just kind of like maybe liberal versus conservative like views. I know that sounds weird when we're talking about Clown in a Cornfield, but to say any more might spoil it. But these two movies would make a great double feature as well. So
I haven't watched a ton of stuff, but I did. This was a pretty good week for me. So I'm a big fan of. I know a lot of people don't like a lot of Francis Ford Coppola's later stuff, and I completely understand that. But I will say, when it comes to like the '90s, you look at a movie like The Rainmaker. So USA, of all people, they did a TV series recently.
yep.
It's on Peacock. There's 3 episodes so far, and it's based off the 1995 film, and of course the book by John Grisham. And it's kind of like a different spin. They do like a different version of the story where basically this time you have a guy who's basically was a drug addict. He's been clean for a year. He goes to the hospital, and the hospital screws up a surgery, and basically the insurance company doesn't want to pay. We've got really, really good actors. We've got a guy named Rudy Baylor. That's the actor, the character, but he's played by a guy named Milo Callaghan. I think you might know him, Jose, because you were talking about at one point the Dune HBO series. I think
Yes.
one of the episodes you were talking about that. So he
Dune
popped up.
Prophecy. Yeah.
Yeah, Dune Prophecy. So he pops up in that. He pops up in The Strangers, Chapter One, an episode of Doctor Who, a film called Video Nasty, and a handful of other things. But he's really, really good, and he's an actor from the UK. And then you have people like rounding out the cast, like John Slattery, who's playing Leo Drummond, who's of course was played by why can't I think of his name? The wrestler Mickey Rourke in
Yes.
the '90s film. So he's playing that role. And you have a bunch of other lead supporting characters like Karen Bryson, Laura Panilla, PJ Byrne, who's like a great character actor that's popped up
Love
in
that guy.
everything. And it's a really good series so far. But yeah, no, it's a really, really good dramatic show. And the lead, he's one of these guys, mark my words, Milo Callaghan. He's going to pop up and take off because he's really, really good. The rest of the supporting cast, of course, is wonderful as well. So I did that. And then I went up to the city mainly as an excuse to get up to the city because I haven't been to New York in a while, even though I live an hour and a half away. I have no good excuse not to go to New York City. But Toxic Avenger wasn't playing around here. So I was like, you know what? I'll go up to New York. I'll go see a couple art films that I don't see around here. So I saw a Japanese film called Friends. It came out in the early 90s. It's by a director named Shinji Somei. He's done a bunch of stuff that he's known for. I think a lot of people know him for a movie called Sailor Suit and Machine Gun, which came out in '81. He did a movie called Love Hotel, Typhoon Club, movie on Criterion called Moving. and a bunch of other films. And basically, this movie Friends is about a bunch of kids. They're about 7 or 8 years old. They live in this like small Japanese village, and one of the friends, his grandmother dies. So, they're all fascinated by this idea. One of the kids' mothers comments about how there's this older guy that lives in the village, and oh well, go see that guy. He's on the verge of death anyway. So I mean, such a weird comment to make. So these three kids end up like spying on this old guy, and he's kind of like basically like almost like an Archie Bunker type character almost. But they end up befriending the old man, and they basically end up forming this very unlikely friendship with this old man. And you start to learn about his story and what he's experienced in life. So it becomes like this coming of age story, but also this story about friendship and life and death, and really heartwarming film. It's going to be, okay, I think, getting like a 4K release later on this year. Definitely recommended. So I saw that, and then I followed it up with this other film from Singapore. It's called Stranger Eyes. Now I'm going to attempt to not butcher this guy's director's name. It's Siu Hyo Yo, and I know I fucking
good.
Probably butchered it, but
that's good.
This guy did a film a couple of years ago on Netflix. It came out in 2018 called A Promised Land, and I really liked that a lot. And I went to see this film because the guy was there for a Q&A after the film. And it's basically, man, this film is really mind-blowing. It's this film about this young couple whose daughter goes missing, and it becomes this whole thing. They use it. It's mostly told through video cameras about voyeurism, and you find out they have a next-door neighbor who's been leaving basically CD-ROM discs, recordings of the family, and you find basically he's been creeping on the family the whole time. So at a certain point, they have enough information to basically put this guy away in jail for recording them, but there's no evidence to support that he actually kidnapped their daughter. So it becomes this weird story about voyeurism. And like I said, it's mostly told through cameras. Apparently in Singapore, what the director was saying is apparently in Singapore, it's a really big thing, and it's supposedly it's like an epidemic, and it's only going to get worse because the government does this in the guise of looking out for them. But the whole film is about the idea of looking out to the point where that you have no privacy, and it becomes this cat and mouse where, like I said, the father, kind of like trying to follow him around. So he ends up becoming a voyeur because he's trying to figure out if he actually did it, because they don't have enough evidence to put him away for that crime. They just have enough evidence to put him away for a few months for spying on them. I'm not quite doing the description justice, but I will say, if it does end up, you guys, if you happen to see A Stranger Eyes, it's touring, especially if the director is going to be there, definitely check it out. It'll probably be on Blu-ray, I'm sure, by the end of the year. Yeah, I had a couple really good opportunities to see films that we don't normally get around here.
Do you mean A Land Imagined?
Oh, yes, that's it. That's what I meant to say. A Land
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, that's Xu Huayu is the director. Yeah. But that, and he did a series called Shen Wang, and then the first movie you mentioned, The Friends. Yeah. That's actually based on a Japanese children's novel called Natsu no Niwa, which translates to The Friends. But yeah, it looks really great. Actually, both of these movies remind me of other films. So like The Friends reminds me of like Kings of Summer, although it doesn't involve like an old man. And then Stranger Eyes, I feel like it reminds me of like Searching, maybe, you know what I mean? With like, that was like a Screen Life film.
But trust me, it's, I mean, I don't want to overhype it and then you'd be like, oh, really? It wasn't that great. But I do think it's really powerful. I think I think you're gonna really, really like it. There's some surprise in it that I wouldn't give away, but it's a real powerhouse of a film. Yeah.
Also, London also has a ton of closed circuit cameras all over the city. Like, I don't know if it's changed, but their police officers don't carry guns, and they use like all of the cameras to basically fight crime or look out for crime or whatever. I mean, it's almost like at my old job, I
Yeah.
don't know how many times I would get served with like a jail phone call, which it says you are being recorded. When you connect the call, you consent to this recording, and then it's them confessing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, why?
Hey Jose, I need to talk to you about this $3,000 I just stole and this old lady I pushed down the steps. Can you help me?
Click.
I guess we'll lead into well, like I said, we'll touch bases real quick on the Toxic Avenger 2023. I'll talk a little bit about our behind the scenes. Um, First of all, it's interesting. Before I even get into like the director or anything like that, this one's really interesting because it came out in 2023 initially. That's when I started
Yep.
playing festivals and stuff like that. And then when I was trying to do my homework and I was trying to be as comprehensive as I could be, but it said the reason it struggled to find distribution was because of violent content, which to
Yeah.
me is absolutely mind-boggling. The distributor that ended up picking it up, Cineverse, who did they put out? They put out the Terrifier movies.
Yep. Yeah.
And Terrifier movies got the third one. I don't know about the second one because I didn't see that down here, but the third one got a wide distribution. They did one thing cool with their marketing. I'm sure you guys have heard they donated $5 million for I think people that had unpaid medical bills. I guess
Yes.
how they figured out who was getting what, but that was very sweet, and it's a great tie into the story. Now
Yeah.
the irony here is when I was telling them when I went up to New York, I saw it in the big AMC Empire 25, which is right across from the Port Authority.
Right.
If you were to like literally look this way, you'd see the Regal Theater across the street. Both theaters had that film playing, and they were both playing every 2 hours. But anyway, I guess that's neither here nor there. I'm a little bit frustrated because I have a lot of love for Troma in general. So when I see that this film finally got like a reimagining, if you will, and they didn't bother to put the proper marketing skills into making this film actually have a chance, it perplexes me.
Well, the initial, I mean, we're going to get into this when we start talking about the original, but
Yeah.
the original point behind this remake was they were actually going to attempt, this is before the director Macon Blair got involved, but they were actually going to attempt to try to make a PG-13 reimagining of Toxic Avenger.
Thank God.
Now, I think one of the reasons why maybe it's stalled in terms of finding distribution is everybody has a preconceived notion about the original. And if
Yeah.
you say we're remaking the Toxic Avenger, it's like saying we're going to remake the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People are like, ooh, who wants to see that? Who
Yeah.
wants to see that? And I think that's probably why it was waiting around for distribution. I mean, I don't know about you, and I'm gonna maybe do a little spoiler for my feelings on the new Toxic Avenger. I don't know who wouldn't want to distribute this because it's kind of fun. It's
Yeah.
it's it's really fun, and even if you have no reference point for what Troma is or the original, it's still kind of a blast to sort of see. And I think this new one is a proper reimagining, and I
Yeah.
think it has something relevant to say that's tied to what the distribution company is doing in terms of paying off people's medicals. And so I kind of am disappointed that they are releasing it the way that they are, because this isn't like the old days of Troma. There isn't going to be a physical media release that you can make money off of. This is just going to be like VOD, and then it'll just end up on streaming. So it's a shame that it went this way. Plus, it's up against the 50th anniversary of Jaws. How many times do you need to see Jaws on the big screen, folks? Really, quite honestly. You can do this in your own home with your own, flesh jack shark, okay? I mean, come on, listen, folks. But, Mike, my co-host at Watch Get Plus, was saying that the manager at the theater said they released some sort of trailer that showed Toxic Avenger like peeing and a little bit more violence, and suddenly the ticket sales were dropping for the showings, and so they ended up giving more theaters to Jaws than to this. And it's like, it's not all just violence. So I think the scent of the original threw a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So, and I hope that the word of mouth comes out and lets people, like us, say it's a movie worth going to see, actually.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I have to echo,
Yeah, please do.
Jose. I mean, because I remember, the first time, we'll talk about the first Avenger, right? It took a while to really grow its charm on me, right? This what we saw Saturday eventually came down to I actually liked it. I did like it. And I even commented to Jose that, but it's like kind of missing that charm, and I might have to watch it again a couple times, right? And
Yeah.
everything in terms of marketing, um, the what you had just mentioned, Mike, and the theater manager, I can understand. I also think too, it is also a different era of people when they see certain things, they're like, oh no, I'm too hoity-toity to go watch that. This is it's a fun movie that if you remember why as a kid you went to go see certain movies, you didn't care. You just wanted to go see it and just wanted to be like home, one emotional checkbox was checked, which was, oh my God, that was so nuts. I loved it. Or, oh my God, it was so nuts. I hated it. But you didn't know what you were in store for. And I think that's kind of missing because you're right. Because there are some scenes, you mentioned the peeing, which kind of throws back to the original movie. But that was a freaking hilarious scene.
Yeah.
I don't need to see Jaws on the big screen. I did it twice
Yeah.
for what I think it was the 10th anniversary and then the 25th. And then every Shark Week on Discovery Channel, they showed the damn movie on TBS.
It's on AMC. Come on, every time.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, I just opened up a bubblegum wrapper. There it is. The movie's playing again. It's everywhere. I've seen it plenty of times. I've seen enough. Yeah, Bruce, I love you, buddy, but
But so yeah, so back to the new Toxic Avenger. So Macon Blair, right?
Yeah.
The guy who directed this, many will know him as the actor in Blue Ruin, the Jeremy Saulnier film, and then Green Room. So Blair and Saulnier they're like best friends. They grew up together. But I did not know that Blair had been doing screenwriting on his own, and there are a couple films that he wrote that are actually pretty good.
Oh,
They
yeah.
escaped
Writing
they
career. Yeah.
escape my mind. Yeah, they escape my mind right now. I don't know. You hit record and suddenly I can't think of anything, right? But Blair appears in this, and there's some cameos by, I believe, Lloyd Kaufman, and then even some of the original stars. He really reimagined this in such a way that it's going to endear the Toxic Avenger to some new audiences, because I by making him a single father, it sort of like endears people to the idea of the Toxic Avenger more so than the original film, which we're going to get to.
Yeah.
And there's enough of the original's quote unquote DNA in this film, right? There's a crazy restaurant scene. There's some nods to some of the craziness in that first film.
Yeah.
And there's even like visual nods to the fact that when we talk about the original film, like it was so low budget and there was always something happening in the background. There are like audio background sort of nods. There's always something going on, or somebody saying something in the background that just makes you laugh. And then the news screeds, if you read them, some of the ads, there's a character from the original film, Mr. Bell Goody, and there are some visual signs that say like, Bell Goody bail bonds.
Yep.
And if you had seen the original, you'd see that and you would laugh and you would chuckle and you would be like, oh, they got me. But yeah, the whole movie is, I don't know, I love it. And strangely, I was surprised to walk away from the film and being like, oh my God, they're skewering corporate America, because there's a medical insurance kind of like angle to this. But almost weirdly, the restaurant scene dovetails with a current controversy over Cracker Barrel. And so if you think about how everybody went nuts because Cracker Barrel changed their corporate logo to something that was a little more like mainstream, the restaurant scene has the same kind of thing. Like there is a an issue over the fact that it used to be called one thing and now it's called another thing. It even has a bit of a gender twist to it too. I don't want to spoil it, but you have to see it. You know, this movie was made in 2023 and it presaged this Cracker Barrel controversy over a restaurant. But also some of the stuff that the restaurant was selling, just I was dying. Like I don't want to give it away, but like I really want like a couple of those posters to like put up like in my study. I think they would be great. But yeah, I want people to see this because it's pretty fantastic. And and I mean we saw an unrated cut. I don't know what the R cut would look like, but it's guaranteed still ribald and crazy. Not quite like the original, but
but there's a lot of callbacks. There's a lot of callbacks. Just some of the little things that like, and again, I don't want to spoil things, but there's some treats with the names. Like they changed the name of the main character for this film to like Winston Goose, but the original's character's name does show up somewhere else.
Yep. So like I said, there's like
that
DNA is still in there. Like Kevin Bacon's character has a nickname that he hates that is the name of one of the lead nemesis in the original. And so but Peter Dinklage is so good. I didn't know what I was going to expect knowing that he was going to play Toxie, but he's fantastic. Jacob Tremblay, the kid from The Predator and Good Boys, The Room with Captain Marvel. Like he's growing up and he's really good in this. Kevin Bacon is in this. Elijah Wood showing up looking like Richard O'Brien from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was like, what are they doing to him? Why does he look like this? And then of course my husband was like, well, he looks like a skinnier penguin from Batman Returns.
That's what I said.
And I'm like, whatever they're doing with him, he's a visual affront to the audience. Every time he shows up, I'm like, I can't look at him. I just cannot. I don't know, but it's a great movie. I need people to see this so we can have more Toxic Avenger.
I mean, let's put it this way, folks. Right, you know, and we'll get into it. Right, Troma and Blair, they put together some Dinklage. Dinklage was a surprise that I loved. You know, in terms of which character of Dinklage am I going to kind of see? Am I going to see like Tyrion from Game of Thrones? Am I going to see him as like the evil corporate guy and Elf? Man, he played a single father that is just trying to do right by his kid. You know what I mean? And it's
so earnest and sweet. He starts dancing, and I was like, oh my God, we're getting Peter Dinklage dancing. It's fantastic.
Dancing in a tutu, which, folks, we all hope, and, if you're, fans and you love movies and you're like, oh man, I want to make a movie. This is why you have to go see this, right? It is an homage. It is a throwback. They made a movie, right? It's not going to win Oscars. It wasn't meant to win Oscars, right? It's just meant to, revive some interest, reintroduce you into a historical company, folks. I hate to say it, Brad, but Troma is Troma.
The sore point with Brad.
Troma is something that at the end of it, and on talking on the way home, it's like the biggest takeaway that I had watching it was I didn't hate it. I didn't hate what they did whatsoever. It's just what it did leave me with is I got to watch it again. Jose said it right. There's so much going on in the back, just like the original film, right? Yeah. Because it's a low budget, right? There's stuff going on all around. When we'll talk about like gym scenes and the different craziness of everything going around, and the sound system, like Jose said, it's like something's going on. All of a sudden, dead silent, and then next you know, here somebody somewhere from the back, this line comes out. We just start cracking up. It's just.
Yo, he saved a fucking kid.
Yeah.
I was like, what's happening? Why? Like just this non sequitur, like throwing out there. It's real. So for me, this movie makes a good. So I bring up this example all the time, and Brad from Not a Bomb always poo-poos this example, but remakes as companion pieces, right? So. The original Old Boy and Spike Lee's Old Boy. I think they make good companion pieces where they're not necessarily really tapping into what made the original great, but it's something different and something good that works as a companion piece. This is a perfect companion piece to the original
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
in a
Yeah.
way, again, it has that DNA. It replicates the insanity in some ways, but in a
Oh,
different way, and a different way to endear modern audiences to Toxie. So
And
I
it's
love it.
enough on its own
yeah.
to still have its own personality. Like Matt
Exactly.
Blair, you see his fingerprints as a director on here.
Yep.
Just like Lloyd Kaufman, you saw his fingerprints as a director. There's just two things I have to bring up. One, because I love Elijah Wood, not just as an actor, but more as a producer. Elijah Wood, a lot of
Yes.
people don't know this, but you probably do, and you probably do too, Nance, but not everyone will know this. He's a huge horror nerd. So much so that, like, I think in 2000 or 2010 or 11, he started his own company, Spectre Vision, and he's produced a ton of horror films, stuff like
Yep.
Cooties, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Open Windows, The Greasy Strangler, Mandy, Color Out of Space, um, another Roger Corman film that's in pre-production about Roger Corman's life. Actually, it's about the making of the movie The Trip. It's called The
Yep.
Man with the Kaleidoscope Eyes that Joe Dante is going to
Yeah.
direct, and he's
Yeah.
producing that. So there's a lot of love, people that love the genre. So I have to mention that because I think that's so important that you see that, a guy like that, he's doing this because it's like, hey, I love this stuff. He could have easily done just mainstream movies. After Lord of the Rings, he probably could have wrote his own check. You know what I mean? But he
Yeah.
supports little things like this. And then also, I have to mention something about Troma that a lot of people don't realize. They're an independent studio. We all know that, but you don't know how many independent studios have been around as long as they have. They've been around for something like 40 something years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And unlike Full Moon or all these other production companies or studios, independent studios, they haven't gone bankrupt once. Not once. And yeah,
There have been financial there.
Yeah.
So when we dive into the background of Troma, they have come very close to that. What they often do is they restructure, they shrink back, they get their popularity, and then they get bigger. But we'll get into all of that. But you're correct. They have not officially ever gone bankrupt, but
no, they've
they've
never done. I mean,
gotten really close.
Yeah.
you got to keep in mind how hard it is as an independent studio. Like this, they're working on budgets that are like $400,000, $500,000, and they still manage to survive. And for 40 years, I mean, with the exception of Corman,
50.
50, excuse me,
50. Yeah.
Yeah.
with the exception of Roger Corman's studio, I can't think of anyone independent studio outside of him and Corman that have managed to do it on their own. And even if they've come close, have never been officially kaputs.
I'll reiterate, this is,
Yeah.
people want to make movies, go see this movie, right? It's an independent studio. How many times have all the big houses let us down, right? With their big budgets and all that good stuff. This movie will make you laugh. I have a very endearing place in my heart now for this movie. I want to go see it again. It's
I know,
crazy.
me too. But unfortunately, where are the show times, right? I
Right.
mean, it's
Right.
it's crazy.
Did they have multiple show times for you guys, or did they only have a couple of show times over where you're at?
I think they had 4 showtimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like 4. I mean, they were up, they were, again, Jaws, Caught Stealing, the Aronofsky,
Yeah.
K-pop Demon Hunters. My God, you can stream it, folks. You can stream it. There are bangers. I admit there are bangers in that, but like,
I'm sorry, real quick. I
Yeah.
mentioned the tie-in with Toxic Avenger and Alien Earth real
Yeah.
quick. That's because Dana Gonzalez was the cinematographer on Toxic Avenger. He's also the cinematographer on Alien Earth.
yes.
Oh,
Okay. Which and I love the visuals and I love the style of how they brought Toxie, and I love even more what they did with Alien Earth. So, folks, give them a shot.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, the look of this film is great, of the new Toxic Avenger, because at first I was scared that it was going to end up looking like Christmas Bloody Christmas or whatever, because there was a lot of like red and green, but they switched stuff up, and it has a filmic look to it. I don't know if they shot it in film or digital, but the movie has a very unique look.
It does.
That is also a throwback to Troma's origins as well. So
Yes.
it's made with love, made
Yes.
with love, made with throwbacks to Troma. So
Yeah, made with love. So show some love, folks. Go see it.
yes, please.
Absolutely. Show it some support. And the good news is, I'm not going to pay the $40, but there is a 4K release. Believe it or not, there's a link for Amazon for the 4K and the Blu-ray.
And with that, folks, we're going to take a quick break to go to Amazon and buy some Blu-ray.
So projected collector's edition release is October 28th of 2025.
Oh hell yeah! Oh hell yeah!
I have a feeling we're going to see this on Not a Bomb, guys. I have a feeling.
And that'll be a shame. But you know what? We'll put that out. And so it says here, look, folks, they've even announced it. Bonus features, best of behind the scenes, director commentary, Macon Blair, Toxic Shock with Tiffany Shepis. She was
the original.
So yeah, exactly. And she was also in Homesick, directed by Adam Wingard. I guess it says here 40th anniversary of Toxic Avenger. I imagine that's going to be a documentary or a short or something. So it's already got great early features. So
with that, I figure we'll pivot and we'll take a trip back to the 80s, guys. All the way back to 84, man. So let me ask you guys. I will readily admit I did not see this until about like high school, so probably like 92 or 93. Were you guys able to sneak one past the parents? Were you guys able to go to your local your local rental mom and pop store and rent this thing on VHS?
Not me. 84 would have made me 10 years old, but my brother was not into this kind of film.
Yeah.
So I would not see it until much, much later.
Yeah.
From its reputation. So not me, but
yeah, I think based on that timeline, we would have been moving to Germany, so we would have not only not been able to rent it, but it would have a year delayed coming to Germany. So
okay.
Probably wasn't until I got back stateside did I finally get to see it.
I don't know quite as much as this as some of our UK friends, but I know like in the UK, for example, they had like the video, they call it, the video nasties, where a lot of the films that they considered like extremely violent were like heavily censored, and some of them they weren't even able to get. But
you'd have to bootleg shit like Faces of Death.
Yeah.
Now, Faces of Death was on my radar, not Toxic Avenger, but
good old Faces of Death. And believe it or not, that was something you could find at my video store. My local mom and pop had that.
I know, right?
I was just shocked.
Yeah, I never understood, as a kind of a kid going to the VH, the Blockbuster, whatever movie rental area, and there would be Faces of Death for adults only. Why are you showing this to me as a kid? Because you know damn well I want to see that.
Exactly.
So real quick, movie came out in 84. From what I read, if you guys ever get a chance, you don't have to like filmmaking, but he's written a couple books. But the one book I've read a couple times, all I need to know about filmmaking I learned from the Toxic Avenger. Even if you're an aspiring filmmaker, it's a very funny book with lots of stories about Troma and the films that he's worked on. And obviously, if you are an aspiring filmmaker, there's lots of, tricks of the trade, if you will.
And another selling point, who co-wrote that book with him?
That has an introduction by Robert Corman and James Gunn. Yes, Mr. James.
Thank you.
James
Filmmakers.
Gunn famously started working at Troma and wrote Tromeo and Juliet, acted in Tromeo and Juliet. There's a follow-up book that Kaufman wrote also, Make Your Own Damn Movie. Which I have not read that yet, but I hear it's pretty amazing.
Also equally funny, and he has another one called Produce Your Own Damn Movie. There's a whole, the whole series. So now we're going down this rabbit hole. So of course I'm going to go on a rant. Let's look at the people that careers he started. We're going to go with Mr. James Gunn, Tromeo and Juliet. Matt and Trey Stone. Their first thing before South Park was a college film, Cannibal the Musical. They picked up. Right. They saw the short film they made for South Park. They didn't distribute that. They almost did, but they did pick up the distribution for Cannibal the Musical. And a quick story about Cannibal the Musical: no one wanted to put that movie out. No one.
Nope.
No one. So they met Trey and Matt. Lloyd did in Los Angeles. Basically, Lloyd takes them out to lunch, and they're thinking, "Oh, well, we're going to go to some fancy restaurant." No, Lloyd brings them to like basically the equivalent of like a Taco Bell. He doesn't pick up the bill.
Lloyd Kaufman is a character, folks.
He basically tells them, he's like, "Listen, I like their movie. We have to fix some sound issues and put a little more violence in the beginning of the movie and a little bit in the end of the movie, just to kind of spice it up and make it more of a Troma movie. I can't give you a lot of money for this movie because I'm going to put a lot of money into marketing this movie, packaging it, making the VHS, the DVDs. You're probably not going to make much money off this movie. So they're like, well, why should we do it? Well, because you made a movie so that it could be seen by people. I'm going to give this thing a theatrical release. It's going to get in theaters. I mean, it's not going to get a wide release, but it's going to show up in film festivals. It's going to show up in theaters, and eventually you're going to get a physical release. And they thought about it for a second, and they were like, you know what? Not going to make a lot of money, but we're finally going to get our fucking film made. Trent Haga. Trent also worked with Troma as an actor. He wrote Citizen Toxic Avenger 4.
Yep.
He was the assistant director. He was an actor in several films. And then as an independent filmmaker, he made 2 banger independent films called 68 Kill. He did a movie called Chop. That was his first film. And again, this is a guy that is now a producer, a screenwriter, and an actor, and he managed to etch out a career. And it's all based off originally working at Troma.
Wasn't Eli Roth also involved?
Yeah, Eli Roth and his brother. He has a brother named Gabe Roth, who's actually also in the industry, who also worked for a long time with Troma. We'll actually get into the actual film recovery today, guys. We're going to talk about 1984 and the Toxic Avenger. Basically, it's directed by Lloyd Kaufman. It's interesting. He made him with the name Samuel Wheel. He had that name. I know it's weird. Then Michael Hertz. Michael Hertz is his partner, and for the most part, he handles the behind-the-scenes stuff. He doesn't like to be front and center.
Just a little history about those two. This is why their company is so insane. So you had mentioned before, Troma. They've been around for 50 years. In fact, their slogan is 50 years of distribution media, and so of disruption media. Sorry, 50 years of disruption media. So they founded their company in 1974. Both Kaufman and Hertz went to Yale. Okay. Yeah. Now there's this fun story. Initially, the two of them didn't get along. And the only reason why they got along was because Kaufman was the only person in their Yale dormitory who owned a television. And then Hertz owned a pinball machine. And so they knew they could throw great parties if they got together. But they initially did not like each other, right? So they formed this company. They formed Troma. They initially produce, direct, and distribute like these raunchy sex comedies and even some softcore porn films, right? Kaufman he actually went to another country and was part of, while he was in Yale, he actually went and did a stint with Peace Corps. But while he was doing that, he filmed a short film with a bunch of his friends. And it was like a 15-minute film of like a pig being slaughtered or whatever. And so what ended up happening was that he showed that to his family and his friends, and they were so shocked. They were like, we thought we were going to see like Jaws or something. You know what I mean? And instead we see a pig being killed. This is like horrible. And Kaufman was like, holy shit, I can make money by shocking the fuck out of people. Yeah. And so he and Hertz got together, formed this company. They were distributing some films. So oddly enough, they have actually, so one of the ways that they are able to offshoot some of the production costs is that they actually had like these sub companies that were distributing films. One of their subdivisions was 15th Street Films, and they have distributed like indie films, including My Neighbor Totoro. Yeah, they were one of the companies that did that. And then they also formed the Troma Film Festival, and then they had a distribution company from that as well. But it's just so curious that like that's how they started. Like it's absolutely insane, right? And so as we have mentioned before, they are the longest running independent film studio in the world. They specialize in like B movies essentially, and so I've talked about this before, like on my show. I think we want younger film cinephiles or people getting into film to understand where these terms come from. So a B movie was often like the lesser known, low budget film that a studio would pair with the A-list film, which had the A-list actors, had the big budget, right? So we talk about these B movies. Troma's stock in trade was essentially shock exploitation, right? And so when you think about the genesis of what Troma was from Kaufman in this like pig killing 15-minute short, right? Troma films would come to be known for their overt sexuality, nudity. KoreanKool and Troy were like, what's the boob count on this? Right? You know?
I can see Troy doing that.
Exactly. And then like, intentionally sadistic, gory, blatant graphic violence. And so that's when you think of a Troma film, those are the things that you think about. And so, that's why it was never on my radar to see something like Toxic Avenger or their other films, the follow-up Class of Nukem High, which apparently was their biggest and most successful VHS release. Yes. Sergeant Kabuki-Man, NYPD, Tromeo and Juliet, Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken.
Love it. Saw that in New York.
Yeah, so these are the films. I mean, Troma now has its own streaming service because it has like hundreds of these types of films and then other films that they've distributed as well. Like, so they're very much farce, parody, gore, splatter.
The other thing crazy, because I'm glad you brought up their streaming service, because what they what was it, 2017, 2016, somewhere mid 2000s, they were like, okay, you know what we're gonna do? YouTube is this brand new thing everyone's checking out, and they basically dumped all their movies on YouTube. Yeah. And then after some folks at YouTube saw it, they're like, oh, this violates our community standards. We gotta get rid of you guys.
They got banned from YouTube. It's amazing. Even from all of that, let's not forget there was a Toxic Avenger animated series.
Yeah.
Like for kids. And so it's kind of like, how did we go from the original Toxic Avenger to a cartoon for kids? Like, it's insane. But, that's this film, Toxic Avenger in 1984. It's what put them on the map.
Don't forget the Marvel comic book. And
yes,
if you're really like a Troma nerd like I am, I'm such a nerd that like 10 years ago, I saw the Troma Toxic Avenger, the musical on Off-Broadway.
Yes.
And you can actually watch that online. And you can rent it. It's actually really, really good. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my God. You know what? My friend has a theater production company. I should suggest to him that we do Toxic Avenger the musical.
Do it, Jose. Do it.
Yes.
Do it.
For sure.
Like you said, there's cartoon, comics, and action figures. They actually had some action figures. And I remember I bought the original Nintendo Entertainment System video game of Toxic Avenger.
That's
and
awesome.
The cartoon, this is the funny part. The cartoon was called Toxic Crusaders.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So, screw you, Captain Planet. That was a better cartoon.
Yes, it was. That's right. That's right.
The only thing I like about Captain Planet is they did
No, let's stop right there. There's nothing. There is nothing to like about Captain Planet.
They did a Funny or Die skit with he was
Don Cheadle.
Oh, Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle. Okay, so Don Cheadle did a parody, and I think it's on Funny or Die. It's like 5 minutes, and it's basically making fun of Captain Planet. It's worth 5 minutes of everyone's time.
Didn't Tom Cruise voice Captain Planet in either a movie or a special? Oh, he was the original voice for the first 6 episodes, but then he backed out due to creative differences. What creative differences can you have, Tom Cruise, on Captain Planet? Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. Let's go.
He couldn't do his own stunts.
Continuing, yeah, exactly.
One other thing I do want to mention, and then I'm going to hand things over to you to talk about like our production people, Jose, which I don't know if you found out, but I thought this was interesting. So in '76, they got a phone call. They were on the verge of being bankrupt. And they got a phone call from a theater owner, and he wanted to see not quite a porno, but like a soft porn with baseball. And they were about to go under, and they got a call from this theater owner. And so they made this movie called Squeeze Play. And what ended up happening was that guy ended up bailing on them. This is where we talk about bankruptcy, almost bankrupting. But at the last minute, they got a call from another theater owner, and a film that they were supposed to get didn't happen. So they said, can you bring your film over here? So they brought Squeeze Play over there, and Squeeze Play actually made quite a few. I think it made millions of dollars. I mean, not like billions of dollars, but it made enough money to save the company. And that's like an early genesis. And with that money, they were able to buy the building for Troma Studios.
Yep.
Right.
Which would launch to Toxie and all that other stuff.
It's so funny. Softcore porn was part of their early
Yeah,
model in terms of distribution.
I'm going to hand things over to you because I don't want to cut in. Jose, I'll let you talk more about the
Yeah.
behind the scenes, the production stuff.
Well, just really quickly. So Michael Hers, Lloyd Kaufman, those are the
Yeah,
directors
yeah.
basically. Our writer basically is Joe Ritter. This would be his first screenplay. Um, and he's, credited like with the characters basically, but quite honestly, he never really went on to write any other
Oh, no.
screenplays, unfortunately. He did direct some movies in the 80s, Beach Balls, The New Gladiators, but mainly he worked in the camera and electrical department on various like films. So the other interesting side note about Lloyd Kaufman is that he did want to get into films, and he would basically take jobs as either a pre-production manager or a production manager. So he actually worked on films like Rocky.
I want to say Saturday Night Fever, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah,
Saturday Night Fever,
Yep.
and then he worked on a film called The Final Countdown, and that was such a terror for him that he was like, I will never work with a major studio. I'm going to devote my life to basically just making indie films and distributing indie films. I say that because Joe Ritter ends up being like a Steadicam operator, a Steadicam assistant on various films, like basically from the 80s all the way up through like the 90s. So, Coyote Ugly, Barton Fink, Maniac Cop 2. So he worked mainly behind the scenes. And then our DP, he's credited as James London, but his actual name is James Leibovitz. And so he has been in the camera and electrical department on a bunch of films, Waitress, Maniac Cop 2. So he seems to
Yeah.
like follow a lot of other Troma films, including Troma's War, which was sort of based on Lloyd Kaufman's book in some ways, but it has this weird sort of like these people go to this island and they end up meeting these other like conservatives or whatever. It was a huge Troma's War was a huge bomb for them, and
Yeah.
that put them unfortunately into a back cycle where they were like, okay, we need to start doing what people know us for, and thus came Toxic Avenger Part 2 and then the sequels or whatever. But Leibovitz has been a camera operator on like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, other Toxic Avenger sequels as well. So, and then one other person I kind of wanted to shout out was Jennifer Aspinall. She's the makeup department special effects person here, but she has gone on to basically do makeup for like a ton of things. The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. She would be on Westworld, Mad TV. She would do the makeup and additional prosthetics for things like that. Recently, Perry Mason, Amsterdam, the Kane Mutiny court martial. So she, from her little humble beginnings, she has gone on to do other big things as well. She is probably also known for her work on 1987's Street Trash, which, dear God, another film not on my radar that I ended up seeing. There was even a remake of that film. Severed penises all around, folks.
Oh,
Um,
two things I do want to mention that I think are interesting. He worked early on in the 70s. He Lloyd Kaufman produced John Avildsen, an early film of his called Joe. Now, Avildsen,
yes.
you guys know, Karate Kid,
Yep.
stuff like that. Another interesting thing for me, because I am a local Toms River native, one of our stuntmen, Tom Serecchio. Now, if you're wondering who Tom Serecchio is, he is a writer, mostly a screenwriter, but he wrote the screenplay for Untamed Heart with Marissa
Oh,
Tomei and Kristen Slater. Now,
nice.
Marissa Tomei is actually shows up in this movie. I don't think she has a speaking part, but she's actually an extra in the Toxic Avenger.
Really?
Yeah, you can actually see her in some of the scenes, and if you look on IMDb Internet Movie Database, she'll show up as listed. Because the one thing that I will say about Troma that very few studios do is they will actually list in the credits, even if you're an extra, your name will show up on the credits, which is
Yeah.
something that's very, very considerate because none of the studios give a shit about extras. So that's
She
Actually,
still won't call
funny-
me back.
That was her first. That was her first thing.
Yeah, KoreanKool was seen in the background in Squeeze Play, and actually, funny you mentioned the stunt people because I noticed a couple names on there. Scott Leva, if you IMDb him, he's a huge stunt guy in Hollywood, mainly like indies, and then Charlie Crowell, he definitely made a career of stunts. I remember, I believe he was the coordinator for Batman Returns. So yeah, they've gone on to big, huge stunt stuff as well.
So I will go from there and talk about our actors. It's mostly unknown people. They're playing Toxic Avenger, not before he becomes the Toxic Avenger, but the actual Toxic Avenger. We have a guy named Mitch Cohen. Mitch, it seems like he has primarily worked with Troma films, doing Toxic Avenger, but he does pop up in stuff like Clerks, believe it or not, Clerks '94. He shows up in an anime series called Starship Girl, Yamada Yoko, and not too much beyond that. I think he does the convention circuit and stuff like that. Doing the voice of Toxic Avenger, they have an actor named Kenneth Kessler. And I think that's the only thing he's credited as. I don't think he did anything, unfortunately, beyond this.
That voice does not match. I don't. Let me just say this. It's kind of like what's his face, Steve Rogers, and then he becomes Captain America, right? This is kind of the same thing. We have the guy playing Melvin, and then there's a different voice and a different guy. I would not have thought for that voice for the Toxic Avenger, though. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, it's all right, ma'am. It's all right.
Yeah,
you're gonna be fine. Like, I don't. What?
Yeah, right.
Well, if you guys have ever seen the second and third film, and Lloyd and Michael Hertz both have gone on record saying they regret it. In the second and third film, they actually went back to a different voice, and the voice is not. It's not good.
Not good.
No.
Playing our lovable Melvin, we have a guy named Mark Toggle. He's done a handful of things, not a ton, but he's made a little bit of a career for himself. He's been in an earlier film called My First Turn On, which came out in '83.
Was that a Troma distributed film?
One of our sex comedies, go figure. He did the Citizen Toxie, which actually I like Citizen Toxie a lot. The fourth film. He did The Return to Nukem High in 2017. And believe it or not, yes, go figure, he plays a school janitor in that.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
He did a horror movie in 2020 called I Spill Your Guts 2, Killer Waves 2, and who doesn't want to see Hollywood Werewolf? That came out in 2023. Just the name alone, I am curious. I think I need to see this movie.
If only for the fact that he plays somebody called Captain Myth.
Yeah. I think he's also in another one I need to find and check out, Special Needs Revolt.
Jesus God. That does not sound. Oh my God! I'm
not going to
like,
describe it, but yeah, you can IMDb.
What is that? That just made me think of what is that Johnny Knoxville movie where he pretends to be special?
Oh my God! Yeah,
The Ringer.
The Ringer. Yeah.
I watched that last night. I love that movie.
Now I'm thinking of Robert Downey Jr.'s famous line from Tropic Thunder. Oh my goodness!
And talking about voices, come on, how can you not go wrong with Melvin's voice? Melvin,
I know.
Had the
it's crazy.
He had the ultimate nerd voice.
Totally.
Playing his girlfriend, Sarah, we have Andrea Miranda, and she has a very small career. Toxic Avenger, and then something right before that called Two Top Bananas, and that's pretty much it. Pat Ryan Jr., who's our mayor and also secretly the head of the crime ring. Then a bunch of weird movies like, here's one for you, Hitler, The Last 10 Days, which came out in '73. Birdie in '84. Remember that one with Nicolas Cage?
Yeah. I love that movie.
Invasion USA in '85. Street Trash. You guys were talking about that earlier. Mannequin. Here you go. In '86.
Oh, shit. The pizzeria manager in Mannequin.
Yeah.
And then Class of Nukem High in '86, he popped up in that one. And I think, unfortunately, he passed away, I think, like maybe a couple of years later. Next, we have Dan Snow playing Cigar Face.
Yeah.
And he's another Troma alumni. He pops up in all 4 Toxie movies, Troma's War, Return to Nukem High, and, a bunch of other stuff, Now,
nice.
This next guy I'm going to mention actually has a career that goes beyond Troma. Patrick Kilpatrick playing Leroy.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
Great character actor. He pops up in one of my all-time favorites, Remo Williams in '85.
Yeah.
He pops up in The Cellar in '88, Class of '99, Death Warrant, Best of the Best 2, Scanner Cop 2, Minority Report, just a ton of credits. And, and that was interesting to see, one of these guys that really took it to the next level. So,
yeah.
First of all, I love that his last name features his first name. That's one. That's one. Two, he's actually really, really sexy, good-looking guy, and yet kind of looks like a serial killer. The only other actor that has the same kind of like sexy serial killer thing going on is an actor named Nick Chindland, but I have dreamed that they would both be in a film together playing like serial killer brothers. It never happened. So the rumor is apparently that he did not like pointing a rifle at like a kid in this film, and that he apparently bounced after that scene. After they forced him to do it, he was like, I quit the movie. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know, but yeah, anyway.
Wow. I did not know that piece of trivia. That's interesting.
Yeah. That's wow.
Now, next up, we have playing one of our villainous characters, and I will say the bully of our poor Melvin. We have Gary Ryder playing Bozo. He's a health club patron who picks on Melvin and commits vehicular homicide. And that's the one thing you gotta love about this movie. There's definitely, and I'll just briefly touch on it, some good kid killing.
Yeah, on PC, baby.
along with his friends, they have an iconic scene where I'm going to just mention where they have a scoring system where they go around killing people, like handicapped people get like X amount of points. Kids get, I think, X amount of points. They have a scene in this movie, folks, where they run over a kid on a bicycle. Then they realize he's still alive. They back up and run over him again.
And the punchline to that scene is they want to score more points.
Yeah.
And the Slug, the guy in the back seat, is like, "Nope, I've got to get up early tomorrow." And they're like, "Why?" And he's like, "I have to go to church." Exactly. And they're like, "Oh." And then later in the movie, I love this. Later in the film, on the side of the driver's side door, there are like pictures of like a disabled wheelchair person, a kid, maybe a nurse or something, and it's got like X's through them or whatever. Because they've already garnered those points.
So yeah, he plays Bozo. He's been up in, like I said, he popped up in Class of Nukem High. You talked about that movie Beach Ball. He pops up in that. And then I think I forgot to write the date down, but I think it's a film that came out not that long ago called Slaughter at Camp Swine Lake. He plays a role in that as well. He's one of these guys that does, I think he's smart enough to take the Troma experience and kind of pivot that into the convention circuit. So he's one of these guys that'll pop up every so often doing the Troma, the horror conventions and stuff like that. So
IMDb says he runs an agency which supplies entertainment for children.
That's awesome. That is absolutely, I love it. I love it. He just keeps very quiet about his early acting.
I was going to say, do you think he lists this in his little bio clip on the website for this? By the way, he played Bozo in Toxic Avenger.
I'm waiting for that one parent to show up that's like a horror nerd and be like,
are you Bozo? You run my kid over? No, I'm kidding.
This is driving me crazy. Next up, we have Richard Pritchard. We're talking about Slug. He's a friend of Bozo and also a bully to Melvin. Again, another guy that pops up in a lot of movies like Class of Nukem High. He's in a movie called Alien Space Avenger. I got to go see that one. Return to Nukem High in 2013. Head Games. Satan, Hold My Hand. How about a title like that? I love it. Oh, and it gets better. Werewolf Bitches from Outer Space.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on. That movie, I have to find that movie.
I think we all have to see that.
Yes.
Playing one of the females, we have Jennifer Baptista, who's playing Wanda, Slug's girlfriend. Again, a lot of movies like Class of Nukem High, Head Games, something called Goodbye New York. Not much beyond that.
Oh shit, she was married to Robert Pritchard. Holy crap.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Nice, nice. Little love connection going on.
There
Uh,
you go.
we have Cindy Manier playing Julie, the girl from the Bozo. She unfortunately didn't do much, but here's an interesting one. She did have a small role in Blowout in '81.
Oh.
Yeah. And then something called Preppies in '84. And then she disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, again, like I mentioned before, Marissa Tomei shows up as Health Club Girl. That's her official title. From there, I will go into a little bit into the plot. I'm not going to go too crazy because this is the type of movie that you really don't need to go pitch in at any moment. We're introduced to Melvin, the mop boy, a nerd that gets picked on. He has a very high, squeaky voice. He's the custodian at this health club. In the beginning scene, it's hilarious because we get the movie and it starts off and he's mopping the floor. He's not paying attention. He ends up putting the mop in the jacuzzi that our bullies are in. And they, of course, flip out. Very soon after that, they plot the revenge against him. And they do it in this very cruel manner. One of the girls, who's very attractive, goes up to him and basically tells him, like, hey, I can't stand Bozo. He's a really bad guy, but I really like you. Why don't you meet up with me later on around 7 o'clock and I'll show you a good time, essentially. And he's like, oh, well, that works out good because I'm in that part of the building cleaning the toilets at that time of day anyway. He meets up with Julie, and she's basically like, oh, I really like you a lot. And she's like, I really want to make love to you right now. But here, first put on this outfit. And she gives him this pink tutu.
With polka dots.
Oh, with polka
And a bodysuit. Yeah, that's in pink. Pink's my favorite color.
It's my favorite color. And of course, this is where we get some good old boobies. And she said, meet me in the pool room, once you're done changing into it. And of course, the room's completely dark. And she's like, come here, Melvin, follow me, follow my voice. And he follows the voice and he finally finds what he thinks is her. It's pitch dark. He goes to kiss her and he goes, oh, you're so furry and soft. And then they turn the lights on and I think it's a sheep. He's kissing a sheep and who's got lipstick on and
oh my God, sheep violence basically is what they committed. Like the sheep has a wig and they've put makeup on it and lipstick. Oh my God. It's crazy. And then they're all there laughing at him. Very Carrie, very like they're all gonna laugh at me.
So, he's basically tormented. And he's running in fear out the building. Meanwhile, cut to downstairs, we happen to have these two truck drivers who are driving barrels of toxic waste, by the way, with no lids on them.
No lids, no freaking lids. It's amazing.
And the one guy's like, hey man, why don't we stop here and just take a break? And the other guy's like, no, dude, man, we got to get this stuff delivered. And he's like, dude, but I just scored some Coke. And he pulls out like a whole Ziploc bag full of, cocaine. He's like, oh, why didn't you say something sooner? At that particular moment, Melvin happens to go crashing out the second floor of the health club and lands in the toxic waste. He manages to land on the ground and he's like spazzing him in fear. And of course, all the bullies come outside and they're like, what's wrong with you? They're like, what's wrong with you? And we're just joking around.
Yeah, we're just joking.
Yeah, can't you take a joke?
Can you take a joke? So
by the way, that line comes back in the robbery scene.
Yeah.
And after they've killed a couple people, the guy has the nerve to be like, "We were just kidding."
Yeah.
We see a scene where he transforms, and I thought, considering the budget and considering the time, but I think it fits the theme of the rest of the. I think it fits the theme of the rest of the movie. We all remember from our generation the Incredible Hulk when he had that transformation scene. It reminds me of like that done on $10. I will admit, and I'm gonna touch base real quick on the remake. Is when they did the remake, they probably could have went like crazy with that scene, but they did, and I think they intentionally did it in like a way that's also kind of like a little bit cheesy. I feel like they called back to the original and they did their own spin on it. They did their own interpretation of that scene, but I think they did it in a fun way. So then poor Melvin gets home and he gets into his house and his mom is like, Melvin, is that you? He's like, yeah, Mom, it's me. And Mom walks in and, of course, flips the fuck out like anyone would.
Sure.
Even though Melvin's trying to say, Mom, it's me, Mom, it's Melvin. And from there, I'm gonna just jump around a little bit. First encounter the villainous Cigar Face. He's basically accosting one of our local police officers, one of the good ones.
Wait, before you go into that scene, I thought the funniest thing was, first of all of the quote unquote violence happens in the same alley. And it's kind of like, so in Tromaville, which by the way is like the toxic waste capital of the world, there's these like kids playing by the sign. And it's like, what? But on the wall, it says something like, no pissing, right?
Yeah.
Which I get. Okay. It's an alley, no pissing. But underneath it says Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, from like 8:30 to like 11:20. So there's no pissing only on those hours, or I'm confused. I'm so confused. I'm also confused by the fact that this man's Cigar Face's gang is comprised of some big, like crazy, like Mookie Meat guy, right? And then there's somebody in drag who like masturbates like nightsticks and knows martial arts. Apparently all the criminals in Tromaville know martial arts because in the robbery, like they all know martial arts, which is crazy. I don't know. What a weird world. I don't know.
From there, basically he sees this poor police officer getting harassed and he, comes to the rescue and of course he becomes the hero and he dispatches the rest of these villains. Flash forward a little bit. And the next scene I'll say, hopefully I'm getting this right, is he sees a restaurant, a taco restaurant getting robbed. Now, this is also very curious. How often do you see restaurants getting robbed? Not too often. We're introduced the first time to Sarah, who would become his blind girlfriend. She's being harassed. They shoot her dog brutally. They shoot the one guy that decides to be the hero. He stands up and he's like, "Hey, we'll give you our money. Just back off." And they just like violently shoot him. Melvin comes to the rescue and he dispatches all our villains. And afterwards, he brings Sarah out through the back door because Sarah, we find out, is blind. And he doesn't want her to find out the truth of him. She's like, "Oh, what am I going to do? My dog's dead. How am I going to find my way home?" And he's like, "I'll help you. We're just going to go out the back door, though." And then
when he says, "We'll do the back door," she has this bewildered look on her face, like, what's about to happen?
She might be blind, but she's not unfamiliar with the back door.
Yeah.
They get romantically involved, and we see a whole like sequence of them having a little romance and having a picnic, and then eventually move into the junkyard. And he finds a new home.
Well, the toxic waste dump.
The toxic waste dump, exactly. It's a home, all right? We can't all be picky about our real estate. Yes, it's definitely a toxic waste dump. We see Melvin, because he's still known as the monster hero. He's not really officially given the name Toxic Avenger until the end of the film. Melvin continues to take out local criminals. We see a couple of great scenes, like we see a drug dealers, and we see a pimp that's got like an underage girl, and he's like, You want this $12? You're gonna have this 12-year-old.
$12 for this 12-year-old, and he drags her out, and she says something along the lines of like, "You said I would go see David Bowie. This man doesn't look like David Bowie, mind you. He's peeing in the alley, and the guy's just like, 'Hey, you're peeing. Don't you want this 12-year-old?'" So crazy.
Oh yeah.
Maybe this is just me reading too much into it, but like the next plot point is essentially that like he ends up murdering this smaller, elder woman in the dry cleaners. Okay. First of all, can we talk about this dry cleaner? She walks in, okay, and the gentleman is there, and she walks in and she says, "My son had this like date last night, and I need you to clean the jeans or whatever." And there's just all this disgusting like white detritus on the jeans. And she's like, "I don't know what it is. Can you get it out?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know what it is either. We'll try to watch it." First of all, there's a copy of Playgirl on the counter. Why, if this, Hispanic male owner Why is there a copy of Playgirl like right out there? It's so strange. And then Toxie comes in, and we've been pre-informed that the toxic waste allows him to like sense evil people and kill them, right? And so the shock is that he steams this woman to death in the laundry. Well, first of all, he throws her into the laundry, right? This movie is so un-PC and violent. Like, I don't know how. So John and I saw it with Troy and his son and a bunch of his son's friends from college.
Nice.
And the one friend was like, "Oh, I'm really interested to see the original now." And I was like, "Oh, hold on. Like, just be pre-warned. It is nothing like this, and it's very un-PC." So he throws her into the washing machine and like washes her for like a few minutes. But before he does that, now mind you, again, the owner appears to be Hispanic, maybe Italian, loves Playgirl, I guess. And he throws her in there and he turns on the machine, or before he turns on the machine, he says, "Oh, no ticky, no washi." And I was like, "Oh, what? What?" But then he throws her into the machine, washes her, and then finishes her off by like steaming her, right? And then this is the other sort of what the fuck moment is the owner comes in and he looks at her, he sees her all fried up on this thing, right? And he's like, "Mrs. So-and-so, you're not, customers can't be on the machinery." Like it's happened before.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just insanity. And so the plot point is essentially that like, oh, Toxic Avenger, the monster hero kills, a harmless old lady, basically, right? Yep. Which reveals the other plot point about our mayor, correct?
Now the mayor is like, oh, well, the mayor's like, hey, he's corrupt, but now I have an excuse. I have an official excuse to track the monster down. So he calls in the National Guard, and they finally...
The National Guard.
Yeah, that's the National Guard.
Deployed to Troma.
Yes. They find their little love nest, because now they've moved from the junkyard into, I think, the woods, right? They've moved into the woods.
Can I ask, why did that happen, though? Like, why were they at that tent?
I thought, and I could be wrong, I thought it was because they were, after everybody labeled them as being now the villain, they felt the need to move because they didn't want to get caught. So I guess they figured if they moved into the woods, maybe they wouldn't get caught, because at that point, he felt really bad because he thought, why did I kill this old lady? Because like you said, he has those powers that told him like, hey, I can sense evil.
Evil, right.
But the media at this point is painting him out to be a bad guy, killing this old lady, and he's questioning. He's wondering if he's losing if his anger is getting out of control, and if he made a mistake. So at least that's my impression. I could be very well wrong on that.
Well, but I don't care. She was in a bikini. I appreciated that part.
So that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, so in order to avoid being hunted down by like the mob, which by the way was a really great line, like, anyway. So in order to avoid that, they pack up and they move to the woods in a tent, right? But she doesn't bring any clothes, really.
Right.
Just the bikini.
Just a bikini.
We want to see this girl in a bikini,
That's all you need.
Yeah. That's all we need. Listen, you can't use logic in the Troma world. But in all fairness, come on, I've made these points before. Can you really believe that Peter Parker, okay, we can buy the maybe getting bitten by a radioactive spider, but can we really believe at 17 years old that he was able to invent web shooters? Not only invent web shooters, but also web fluid. I mean, he might be a really, really smart kid, but don't you think we're really stretching the imagination? We just kind of
if I could do that, I would not be plying my trade as a photographer for a newspaper.
Exactly.
At a certain point, you just kind of you got to accept the universe that you're in, and kind of roll with the punches, or completely dismiss it and be like, fuck this movie. So, but it's got to be one or the other at a certain point.
So, right. So to that point, right before we get to the scene where he calls in the National Guard, right? The mayor's talking with his police chief, which, holy crap, I'm not even going to mention how non-PC this police chief is.
Oh,
all I will say is this guy, he is very crazy. Okay, and you can understand when he starts calling the mayor Fuhrer. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yes, and in order to silence, first of all, we're just going to be discussing this because there's so many what the fuck moments
Yes.
in this, right? And so much happening. Cigar Face almost castrates this poor officer who's named O'Clancy as opposed to like O'Malley, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I thought that actor was so cute. Apparently he never went on to anything else, quite honestly. He played Norwegian dad in some TV show. I don't know. But he ends up going to ostensibly get treated, right? Because the next scene, they're fixing him up from like being bruised or whatever. He's in a jail. Do you see? There's jail bars in the back.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand how the media is there, the police are there, he's there, there are nurses and stuff, and they're in a jail. I don't know. So then the police chief comes in and everybody's all like, what's going on? Who's the monster? This and that or whatever. And in order to silence everybody, he goes, Heil!
Yes. Yeah.
And everybody shuts up. And then it's like, oh my God. So far be it from me, like Cher says in Clueless, to find meaning in a Pauly Shore film. But the screenwriters of this are smart enough. Yes, I said it, folks. They are smart enough to counterbalance the Nazi police chief with the German scientist who talks about the fact that Toxic Avenger only goes after evil people. So it's sort of weird that there's that counterpoint of like German people. There's a bad one, a Nazi, and then there's a good one who tells us that, he only goes after evil people. Exactly. Very strange, but well done, Troma. Well done.
Yeah, well done, because throwing back when the police chief's talking to the mayor, Jose, you mentioned there's like this batshit crazy news article that he reads to him. He's like, yeah, the little old lady who he killed, apparently she has a notorious criminal who was also an international leader of a white slave gang. It's like, what the?
Which dovetails with the 12-year-old, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
Maybe the screenwriters were smarter than we thought, folks.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's great. It's great.
Like I said, the mayor calls the National Guard, and we find out that the old woman that he thought was innocent, that he was questioning his motives as a hero, is not. And basically, like I said, he moves into the woods. Like I said, they're eventually discovered by the mayor and the National Guard, who come to kill him. And the mayor, Belgoody, proclaims Melvin as a monster. However, the people of Tromaville step in, and Melvin's mother identifies him as her son. And the mayor's evil ways are revealed. Melvin kills him in front of the crowd, disemboweling him. A great kill, by the way.
You don't have any guts.
And then he pulls out, and then he's hailed as a hero. And then Melvin continues to fight crime in Tromaville. And the narrator announces he's now known as a Toxic Avenger. So, and pretty much that's the
super cool.
There is, among this craziness, there are some points like. The movie was conceived before 83. It was shot in 83. So there is an idea of him actually focusing on pollution and nuclear waste before that was really a thing.
Yeah.
This movie does, despite all the craziness, it does have some heart to it. Just like the remake, it does have some heart to it. Obviously, the craziness of Troma, I think, is what people remember. The humor, the nudity, the violence, and all that stuff. But, let's face it, when it comes to the Troma films, even the people I know that have only seen, like, a handful, when it comes to Troma films, like, whether they hate it or love it, they always have some sort of reaction to this film. And I think, I have a friend that's highly religious. Like, he goes to church every Sunday, the whole nine. Even he said he saw it as a kid, and he just looked at me like when I told him I was watching it. But even he admitted to being entertained by it, And this is a guy that, like I said, goes to church on Sunday, isn't like someone that's normally into this kind of stuff. He admitted to me, he's like, listen, I know it. There's a whole lot of shit that's wrong in this movie, a lot of messed up stuff. But the 10-year-old me as a kid, I absolutely love it. He said, I haven't seen it since I was 10 or 11 years old, but I remember watching it and just laughing my ass off.
Not to get too deep, but I was thinking about this. If someone were to come up to you and say, Oh my God, I love Troma
Yeah,
in much the same way that somebody would come up to you and say, I love another T word.
yeah,
There's an automatic, you know, preconceived notion or stereotype that you're going to have for somebody, you
yeah.
know, that either loves Trump or loves Troma, right? Because it defines, it's almost like my post with like Faster Pussycat Kill 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 and The Legend of the Overfiend that
Oh,
really says something about me, right? And so when somebody says, I love Toxic Avenger, I love the sequels, that definitely, to me, that says, come sit at my table and we can talk
absolutely.
about film, right?
Yeah,
But to others that know the sort of like Troma brand, it's very much like, oh, I don't know that your tastes are like my tastes because it's such a it Troma films are so extreme, right? I mean,
yeah.
this film, you know, and this is why I was like sort of like warning Troy's son's college friend,
Mhm.
like you have to be pre-warned a little bit here because I mean, we've got kids being killed, we've got you know, old ladies being thrown into washing machines. We have, you know, the F word. We've got gay people in
Fucking
a
Scott.
gym, gay people in a gym working out in thongs and making out. We have co-ed saunas in a gym. Like, just there's a level of just, you know, insanity in this
Yeah.
that they just like you have to be prepared for it because it really is off the wall. I mean, I'm thinking about that scene which has there's no reason why this scene should be in this film and yet it is where Slug puts the snake under in the shirt of the aerobics instructor
Yeah.
and you know because the aerobics instructor is like saying madam you know girls when I do the aerobics whatever I do you do if I kick my right leg you kick your right leg and then he puts the snake down his back and then he's freaking out leading to the entire scene of like all the people like freaking out and getting on the ground and like there's no reason that that should be in there but it goes with the whole vibe of like
Yeah.
the
No, absolutely.
Troma picture so I mean and then later that lady there's like an overweight lady who's in there who's like in the beginning she's eating like chocolate bars and a taco while they're doing the aerobics but later in the film in the background she's seen hitting on like this twink guy and like the twink guy appears to be loving it so it's just like there's so much that goes into this I mean the cocaine the you were talking about the cocaine when he dives through the window and ends up in the toxic waste barrel the two drivers come up and their entire face is caked in cocaine and they're like what just happened you know all the people are gathering to see him there's toxic waste everywhere and yet people are out there in their speedos and bare feet like it's just it's too much right if you love trauma movies I may have something in common with you I don't know.
No, I mean, let's face it. Like, I remember another experience, another story. There was a girl that I was very much interested in a long time ago. I confess my love for Troma films, and she's one of these. Like, I grew up in New York my whole life. She thought she was into like, independent films and blah blah blah. And she's like, Troma films. That's like pornography. I'm like, no, it's like
Not
weird
really.
pornography. It's not pornography, damn it.
And ultra violence yeah
Ultra
yeah.
violence, maybe if you really want to use the soft porn to some degree, but really, it's not pornography. I mean, it's not for everybody. Oh, you like independent films, but you're watching this trash. You know what I
But you're
mean?
watching Trauma. Yeah, I wonder how younger audiences who will have an affinity for the new Toxic Avenger, I want to know how they're going to react to seeing this because this is, you know, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy,
Yeah.
especially the vehicular homicide point scheme, you
Yeah,
know?
Yeah. I
oh,
mean,
absolutely. It's interesting. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this off topic, but on Facebook, I've seen it on my feed every once in a while. You'll see like a video of like a teenager being exposed to a song from the 80s.
Yes,
And you're
reaction
like,
videos,
oh,
yeah.
man,
yeah.
it's so fascinating because it's the stuff that like we grew up on when we were like younger. 9 out of 10 times their minds are blown about how cool some of these songs were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when people think of the 80s, although I have a lot of amazing memories from the 80s, a lot of people like just to dismiss that as the a horrible time. Like even Tarantino, like if you ever listen to his podcast, I don't listen to it too often because I think they made it into a pay thing now.
Oh gosh, okay.
But at one point, he said there's like, these are the 10 films that you need to see. from the 80s. But for the most part, I think he's kind of poo-pooing a lot of the films that came out of the 80s. He thinks it's like a blight on the film industry at that particular time. Not all of it, but for the most part.
I
Which
think
I
the
don't quite agree
80s and
with.
early 90s were like
I
the
thought there was
best
a lot of
cinema.
good stuff. I thought there was a lot of good stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. To his point, there probably is some shit, but you can say that about
Yeah.
the
Well,
golden age, which is the 70s.
70s cinema is probably the best, but like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I grew up as an 80s kid, so I
yeah,
love
yeah,
those movies.
absolutely. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. Again, like I said, the different reactions people have. That's why I brought up the music thing. Yeah. Until you actually are exposed to it, you really don't know how you're going to react to it. But yeah, this is for me. I'll just real quickly touch on my feelings. I don't have a lot to say. This is a film that just spoke to me when I saw it. Probably saw this and Clerks around the same time. I've always wanted to be a writer. I've dabbled in writing most of my life. At a certain point, especially when it became the revolution of like the mini DV and stuff like that became a thing. Forget about entertainment, just but knowing that like something like this could be done. Like if these guys could make a movie and look at like they were doing it for $400,000 and that was with 35 millimeter film that like, hey, maybe I could put something, you know what I mean? Like I made a short film and worked on some
Yeah.
films. But like just from that perspective, like if you're an aspiring writer or filmmaker,
Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez, by the way, wrote an awesome book, Rebel Without a Crew, about the
So
making
good.
of Liberace. He
Yeah.
said about his filmmaking journey because him and his best friend used to shoot films with a camcorder and then edit between two VCRs. And they used to they made a ton of short films when they were kids and in high school. And that's pretty much what taught him to become a filmmaker. I mean, the list and list goes on, just like Corman, the list and list goes on of people that were inspired to become filmmakers because of what these guys did, because these guys paved the way and said that, like, hey, it doesn't have to be even perfect. Make a film that's entertaining. And even if the film sucks and nothing happens with it, just find enough money to make your next film.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter the quality. He said it many times, Lloyd Kaufman, if you read the books, quantity over quality. You don't want a bad final product. But the idea is if you're a filmmaker, you want to hone your craft. And the only way to do that is by making stuff. So even if you make a film that's not perfect, you gain the experience from making it and then you continue to get better. Just like anything else. If you want to become a long distance runner, you're going to suck at first. I remember when I did it. But after a while, you're going to build yourself up. You might start off at 1 mile, then 2 mile, 3 mile, 10 mile. You know what I mean? You're going to get better. They were just, you can't discount the impact they had on so many filmmakers. They just had a huge impact that make films today, even in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like the reality is, I don't think we'd have like Trey and Matt. I don't think we'd have a James Gunn. I think there's so many people that probably wouldn't be where they're at. They were inspired. This film holds a spot that's very near and dear to my heart. When I first saw it, like I said, besides loving the entertainment aspects, just being a huge influence, knowing that like, hey, you can do it if you have enough motivation and you have enough creativity. It's possible to make something happen if that's something that you're interested in.
Nice.
And that's pretty much like what I think overall. I love this thing. I absolutely adore it.
I had not seen this in decades, quite honestly, okay. Because I do remember finally seeing it and kind of being like, this isn't really for me, right? Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's some value in seeing all cinema. With Troma, nobody looks at the Corman films that they release and say, oh, this is like trash or whatever. Like you said, there's some intrinsic value to some of these films and some of the Troma films. Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody, and it's certainly, looking back at it now, I have to say that some of this could be seen as like offensive and un-PC, but there's a weird what the fuck charm to this film and a lot of Troma films and the new Troma film. For people to sort of dismiss it outright and sort of kind of be like, oh, Troma, I don't watch those kinds of movies. There's value in all kinds of cinema. And,
Absolutely.
I've already mentioned some of the sort of weird WTF moments for this film, but it is a blast to watch. And it's cute. It's endearing. I mean, that restaurant is called The Mexican Restaurant, and yet they walk in and there's samurai swords on the wall, and then all the criminals know martial arts. And so that's just the kind of thing that you are in for when you see this film and any Troma film. I've got the 4K set with all the sequels
You did?
in
Oh, I'm jealous.
my Amazon shopping cart. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
even if the rest of the other sequels are along the same lines or
Yeah.
worse, I don't know. It's had such an impact that I love this and I love the new movie. So
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
no.
think there's any more to say, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's one of the few cases where like I can actually say I was so
Yeah.
relieved to see the new movie and just knowing that like I had so much love for this one and the fourth one, it met my expectations because I was so kind of worried that like even though I have respect for Macon Blair and I like him as an actor, filmmaker, writer, I was still kind of worried. And I was so worried that he wasn't going to quite capture the spirit. He didn't have to.
Yeah.
I don't want to make shot for shot remake. No one wants that. But I wanted him to capture the spirit. And I was so worried that he was going to fuck it up and I was going to walk away just being like, oh, they screwed it up again. These are a perfect companion. If you can't make it out to see this movie, hopefully I employ people to try to make it out, even if it's a little bit of a trip. I mean, I took an hour and a half bus ride. I'm not asking you to do that. But even if you make a trip of it, get some friends, go grab some dinner, go take an hour trip, go to your local art theater if it's not playing by you. If you live in the suburbs like me, make the trip, make a day of it. I think if you like Troma films, if you like low budget B movies, if you like independent filmmaking, I think you're gonna have a good time with this remake.
KoreanKool, how do you feel
And,
about Toxic Avenger?
yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, my friend.
So I have to start with a story of our mutual friend Brad and his secret confession that he was like,
Oh,
please don't tell anybody how much I do love Troma films. I just have a reputation. I have a reputation to
To
uphold.
protect.
I would give him so much shit if I find
Just
out you're
kidding.
telling me it's true.
I mean, there's not much to add to what you both have said because I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly. Troma, Corman, all those folks took a chance and did something that I could only dream about doing when I was a kid,
Yeah.
right? Which was put a movie out there.
Yeah.
Toxic Avenger. I've learned that when you're a kid and you go riding a bike at 10 o'clock at night, those fucking reflecting vests, they don't do nothing. So don't even put them on. Okay. Yeah. When you go to a restaurant called the Mexican Place and you see samurai swords, just turn around and leave.
Or don't expect authentic tacos, okay?
Exactly. Exactly. You meet a chick and she's really cute, and you come to find out she likes to, diddle herself while staring at Polaroids of squished skulls.
She's a keeper.
Rethink your relationship.
Yeah, go ahead and end it right there. Just go ahead and walk away. Okay. And the last thing I will say is pretty much Cigar Face. Is he some kind of great, great, great ancestor to Taserface? It was that kind of a throwback back then to James Gunn giving some homage back to Troma.
Like,
Toxic
maybe.
Avenger, Toxic Avenger 1984 is just, again, one of those crazy movies. We grew up with them, right? And
Yeah.
it's not so much, oh, I really appreciated the story and the lighting and the color schemes really moved. No, it's, did you see the rack on that chick? Did you see what happened there? Dude, that kid, did you see what they did to him? Those are the parts, those shock moments, those points where you weren't expecting what you were. Jose, you said it. When everyone's talking and the captain comes in and he goes, hi. It's like, what the hell am I getting into? Oh yeah, here's another life lesson for you young audience members, okay? If you're meeting a chick and dating a chick and all of a sudden she talks about how, with your car, you get 20 points for the Chinese, 50 points for the N-words, and
Oh
stop,
my God.
stop, pull over, stop, kick her ass out the car, go home. You'll be doing yourself a whole lot of favor. The craziness, the nuttiness as it continues on, whether it was Troma Films, again, Corbin, some of the other, different houses that put out different films. I mean, hell, you want to talk about cheese and tasteless and even into the sci-fi. I mean, let's all talk about how Battle Beyond the Stars started something that just continues to this day. Okay, folks, trust me, it's kind of a perfect encapsulation to which we grew up a certain with certain film styles that, again, we weren't looking for, the technicalities. It was entertain us.
Yeah.
And that's what in 1984 it did. The remake, again, some of the love started bubbling up for the remake when they start playing oh crap, what's his name? Masorski's Night on Bald Mountain. That
Yes.
dun dun
Yep.
dun 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 dun. In the remake, it's like
Yes.
Yes.
Toxic Avenger.
Love it.
And again, folks, you have to understand something, okay? And I say this with much love and respect, right? You can't apply today's standards to movies from 70s, 80s and stuff, right? Just give it a shot, right?
Yeah,
And no preconceptions, no judgment beforehand. Just give it a shot. You might like it. Troma, yeah, it's not for everybody. They did something I wish I could have done. Or I wish I had the cojones to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Some of it's, oh, that's tasteless. Dude, not only in, Jose said it earlier, the remake, Troy and I are like, what's the booby count? Not only did we get the boobies, we got a propeller.
Yeah.
And folks, if you don't know what a propeller is, all I'm going to say is,
Yes.
that's about it, folks.
The concert scene, yeah.
Yeah.
God, that was so weird.
It was so weird. But, and that's what I think is sort of needed nowadays more so than anything, right? We're not trying to be the next Scorsese or the next, Oscar winning film. Entertain us, right? That's all we're asking is entertain us. And I think with the remake, they delivered. I think with the original, it still delivers. Yeah. Sorry, it still delivers.
Yeah.
So don't be hesitant, right? If you've never seen it, go check it out. I think you might surprise yourself.
No, I think
and it's streaming free on Prime, so go for it.
Yes, it is.
I think it's on TV. If you go on Canopy, you can get a Canopy account for free. There's a ton of good films on there, and you don't have to deal with commercials. So that's also another great option. Two things I forgot to mention. One, they also started the career of the guys over at Astron 6. Now, if you guys that aren't familiar with Astron 6, Astron 6 is Manborg, Father's Day, which was a huge hit on the independent circle. Steve Kostansky, who has a huge career as both a director and an effects guy. He's worked on a ton of Hollywood films, and he's doing the new Deathstalker film.
Yes.
He did Psycho Gorman and a bunch of other really cool indie films. And he's another one that always involves his compadres from Astron 6. They all show up in his films. Just like Kevin Smith, he doesn't forget about his friends. So that's one point. And then the other one is Troma is still, besides picking up films for distribution to this day, they're still making films. They have a film that they shot a while ago. It's called Shakespearean Shitstorm.
Shakespearean Shitstorm, yeah.
It's off the Tempest, and it's actually getting a release in September. I have my pre-order in.
Nice.
And a buddy of mine, a good friend that I've known since high school, my buddy Christian LeComte, so big shout out. He did a movie last summer that they filmed, they directed, called The Power of Positive Murder. So they're still editing it right now. I don't know a lot of details, but he plays a terrorist in it. He was telling me a little bit about it. It sounds like a blast. So knowing Troma, it'll probably take a couple of years before that gets released. These guys are still putting movies out. And hopefully, I would imagine Lloyd probably got a decent paycheck when they bought the rights for the remake. So hopefully that'll keep them in enough money to keep on putting little movies out every so often. Lloyd Kaufman, I don't know his exact age. I didn't look it up, but I'm guessing he's probably about, at this point, he's got to be 73, 74 years old.
Yeah, I think so.
So to be 73, 74 years old and still out there shooting films, that's not an easy thing to do at 73, 74 years old. There's a lot of work that goes into being a director. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of work going into being an actor, a producer, a composer. But when you're the director and you're in charge of the whole show and you're in charge of the whole circus, if you will, it's a lot of work, a whole lot of work that's involved in that, and especially on an independent production when you're working with budgets of $500,000, $400,000. Just a couple things to keep in mind. So that closes out today's episode. I want to thank you, Mr. Jose, for coming on, dude. This was awesome. I'm so
that was a blast. Thanks for having me.
I wish Mike could have made it, but I understand Vegas, the allure of Vegas. We'll get
Call of Vegas.
We'll get you guys.
21.
we're gonna get both of you guys on together. We're gonna get both of you guys on together and do a crossover thing again down the road. Shout outs to all our fellow podcasters. Of course, Watch Skip Plus. Tell me what's going on over at Watch Skip Plus. Give us the heads up, the big scoop.
So we just released Eden. Lots of talk of weenuses and placentas. That was, I may not have liked the movie, but I certainly did enjoy that movie. But so Mike is in Vegas, and so unfortunately there will be no episode. We'll take a short break.
Okay.
But we're in the August doldrums, so I have no idea what we're gonna review after that. So
I'm still waiting. We're gonna have a mystery for our next movie too. Unless is it still a mystery, Mr. KoreanKool, for our next?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's still a mystery.
We're gonna keep you waiting, folks, because we're not sure what our next film's gonna be either. But sometimes a surprise is a good thing.
It is.
Of course, Watch Skip Plus. Definitely check out Jose and Mike and the new episode with Eden. Check out our friends Troy and Brad with Not a Bomb. Each week they look at films that were either a critical failure or a commercial failure. They're always giving us some good stuff. I think you're going to be showing up this week, right, with the Catwoman episode.
Cat Broad, yes.
Oh man,
dressed up like some cat broad. Yeah, Halle Berry, Catwoman.
Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. Of course, we got the Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema with Will and Sam. Each week they give us a new surprise, always something different and interesting. Those are the guys that inspired, I think, all of us. Caliber 9 from Outer Space with Rob and Joe. I'm going to be showing up on there in, I think, a couple weeks. I forget what we're covering.
Cool.
But Rob and Joe do a double feature episode where they cover an A film and they cover a B film. And again, those guys are amazing, and they put a lot of work into their episodes. They do a lot of like sound effects and they just do a really great job with Caliber 9. Rob and Joe are just good guys. Raiders of the podcast. Each week these guys take a look at 2 films, and this week they covered 4 films because they do a end of the month special where they cover 4 films. So check out Raiders of the podcast. And then finally, I'll throw a plug out to Death by DVD with Harry Scott Sullivan. I know he's on a slight hiatus. He did release like a very short episode about 2 weeks ago. But check out Death by DVD. They have a whole back catalog. And Harry's a really nice guy and such a great podcast. So definitely check out all those podcasts, guys. We want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you again, Jose, for coming on.
Yes, thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
I want to, send out a special message to everybody. Remember, there's nothing wrong with seeing Hollywood films. There's nothing wrong with supporting independent films, but remember these indie films, like a lot of these films are done on like no budgets, and your support means the world to them, whether it's renting it on VOD, whether it's going to the theater and seeing it, whether it's picking it up on the physical release, whether it's seeing it on Tubi. Just, support these films, because the more of these independent films, these no budget films that you support, the more money they make, the better opportunities filmmakers have to make more films. And don't get me wrong, you're still going to have opportunities to see your big Hollywood films. They're always going to be out there. When an independent filmmaker takes a hit, it's so much harder for them to make the next film. So support your independent filmmakers, whether it's a local homegrown film, whether it's somebody you've never heard of before, support these guys, because that support means such a difference into their career and what they can do to further their career and make more films for us, make us unique. We want more unique films out in the world with more unique voices. That's what we need as audiences. We don't want the same cookie cutter film over and over again. But I want to put that out there to people, So again, thank you guys all for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next week at the movies.
Take care.
Take care, guys.